And when spring comes to the city, people notice one another in the road, notice the strangers with whom they share aisles and tables in the space where intimate garments are laundered. Going in and out the same door, they handle the handle. On trolleys and park benches, they settle thighs on a seat in which hundreds have done it too. Copper coins dropped in the palm have been swallowed by children and tested by gypsies. But it's still money, and people smile at that. It's the time of year when the city urges contradiction most, encouraging you to buy street food when you have no appetite at all, giving you a taste for a single room occupied by you alone, as well as a craving to share it with someone you passed in the street. Really, there is no contradiction. Rather, it's a condition. The range of what an artful city can do. What can beat bricks warming up to the sun? The return of awnings, the removal of blankets from horses' backs. Tar softens under the heel, and the darkness under bridges changes from gloom to cooling shade. After a light rain, when the leaves have come, tree limbs are like wet fingers playing in woolly green hair. Motor cars become black jet boxes gliding behind hoodlights, weakened by mist. On sidewalks turned to satin figures, move shoulder first. The crowns of their heads angled shields against the light buckshot that the raindrops are. The faces of children glimpsed at windows appear to be crying, but it is the glass pane dripping that makes it seem so. In the spring of 1926, on a rainy afternoon, anybody passing through the alley next to a certain apartment house on Lenox might have looked up and seen, not a child, but a grown man's face crying along with the glass pane. A strange sight you hardly ever see, men crying so openly. It's not a thing they do. Strange as it was, people finally got used to him, wiping his face and nose with an engineer's red handkerchief while he sat month after month by the window without view or on the stoop, first in the snow and later in the sun. I'd say Violet washed and ironed those handkerchiefs because, crazy as she was, raggedy as she became, she couldn't abide dirty laundry. But it tired everybody out waiting to see what else Violet would do besides trying to kill a dead girl and keep her husband in tidy handkerchiefs. My own opinion was that one day she would stack up those handkerchiefs, take them to the dresser drawer, tuck them in, and then go light his hair with a matchstick. She didn't, but maybe that would have been better than what she did do. Meaning to or not meaning to, she got him to go through it again. At springtime, when it's clearer then than as at no other time, that city life is street life. Blind men thrum and hum in the soft air as they inch steadily down the walk. They don't want to stand near and compete with the old uncles positioning themselves in the middle of the block to play a 6-string guitar. Blues man, black and blues man, black therefore blue man, everybody knows your name. Where did she go and why, man? So lonesome I could die, man. Everybody knows your name. The singer is hard to miss, sitting as he does on a fruit crate in the center of the sidewalk. His peg leg is stretched out comfy. His real one is carrying both the beat and the guitar's weight. Joe probably thinks that the song is about him. He'd like believing it. I know him so well. Have seen him feed small animals nobody else paid any attention to, but I was never deceived. I remember the way he used to fix his hat when he left the apartment building, how he moved it forward and a bit to the left, whether stooping to remove a pile of horse flop or sauntering off to his swank hotel, his hat had to be just so. Not a tilt exactly, but a definite slant, you could say. The sweater under his suit jacket would be buttoned all the way up, but I know his thoughts are not. They are loose. He cuts his eyes over to the sweetbacks lounging on the corner. There is something they have he wants. Very little in his case of Cleopatra is something men would want to buy. Except for aftershave, dusting powder, most of it is for women. Women he can get to talk to, look at, flirt with, and who knows what else is on his mind. And if she gives him more than the time of day with a look, the watching eyes of the sweetbacks are more satisfying than hers. Or else he feels sorry about himself for being faithful in the first place. And if that virtue is unappreciated and nobody jumps up to congratulate him on it, his self-pity turns to resentment, which he has trouble understanding but no trouble focusing on the young sheiks, radiant and brutal, standing on street corners. Look out. Look out for a faithful man near 50, because he has never messed with another woman, because he selected that young girl to love. He thinks he is free. Not free to break loaves or feed the world on a fish, nor to raise the war dead, but free to do something wild. Take my word for it, he is bound to the track. It pulls him like a needle through the groove of a bluebird record, round and round about the town. That's the way the city spins you. Makes you do what it wants, go where the laid out roads say to, all the while letting you think you're free, that you can jump into thickets because you feel like it. There are no thickets here, and if mowed grass is okay to walk on, the city will let you know. You can't get off the track a city lays for you. Whatever happens, whether you get rich or stay poor, ruin your health or live to old age, you always end up back where you started, hungry for the thing everybody loses, young loving. That was Dorcas, all right. Young but wise. She was Joe's personal sweet, like candy. It was the best thing if you were young and had just got to the city. That and the clarinets, and even they were called licorice sticks. But Joe has been in the city 20 years and isn't young anymore. I imagine him as one of those men who stopped somewhere around 16 inside. So even though he wears button-up-the-front sweaters and round-toed shoes, he's a kid, a strapling, and candy could still make him smile. He likes those peppermint things, last the livelong day, and thinks everybody else does too. Passes them out to Giston's boys clowning on the curb. You could tell they'd rather chocolate or something with peanuts. Makes me wonder about Joe. All those good things he gets from the Windmere, and he pays almost as much money for stale and sticky peppermint as he does for the room he rents to fuck in, where his private candy box opens for him. Rat. No wonder it ended the way it did, but it didn't have to, and if he had stopped trailing that little fast thing all over town long enough to tell Stuck or Giston or some neighbor who might be interested, who knows how it would go. It's not a thing you tell to another man. I know most men can't wait to tell each other about what they got going on the side, put all their business in the street. They do it because the woman don't matter all that much, and they don't care what folks think about her. The most I did was halfway tell Malvon, and there was no way not to. But tell another man? No. Anyhow, Giston would just laugh and try to get out of hearing it. Stuck would look at his feet, swear I'd been fixed, and tell me how much high John I needed to remedy myself. Neither one of them I talked to about her. It's not a thing you tell except maybe to a tight friend, somebody you knew from before, long time ago, like Victory. But even if I had the chance, I don't believe I could have told him. And if I couldn't tell Victory, it was because I couldn't tell myself, because I didn't know all about it. All I know is I saw her buying candy, and the whole thing was sweet. Not just the candy, the whole thing and the picture of it. Candy's something you lick, suck on, and then swallow, and it's gone. No, this was something else. More like blue water and white flowers and sugar in the air. I needed to be there, where it was all mixed up together just right. And where that was Dorcas. When I got to the apartment, I had no name to put to the face I'd seen in the drugstore, and her face wasn't on my mind right then. But she opened the door, opened it right up to me. I smelled pound cake and disguised chicken. The women gathered around, and I showed them what I had while they laughed and did the things women do. Flicked lint off my jacket, pressed me on the shoulder to make me sit down. It's a way they have of mending you, fixing what they think needs repair. She didn't give me a look or say anything, but I knew where she was standing and how every minute. She leaned her hip on the back of a chair in the parlor, while the women streamed out of the dining room to mend me and joke me. Then somebody called out her name, Dorcas. I didn't hear much else, but I stayed there and showed them all of my stuff, smiling, not selling, but letting them sell themselves. I sell trust. I make things easy. That's the best way. Never push. Like at the Windmere, when I wait tables, I'm there but only if you want me. Or when I work the rooms, bringing up the whiskey hidden so it looks like coffee, just there when you need me and right on time. You get to know the woman who wants 4 glasses of something, but doesn't want to ask 4 times, so you wait till her glass is 2/3 down and fill it up again. That way she's drinking 1 glass while he's buying 4. The quiet money whispers twice, once when I slide it in my pocket, once when I slide it out. I was prepared to wait, to have her ignore me. I didn't have a plan and couldn't have carried it out if I did. I felt dizzy with a lightheadedness I thought came from the heavy lemon flavoring, the face powder, and that light woman sweat. Salty, not bitter like a man's is. I don't know to this day what made me speak to her on the way out the door. I can conjure what people say, that I treated Violet like a piece of furniture you favor, although it needed something every day to keep it steady and upright. I don't know, but since Victory, I never got too close to anybody. Giston and Stuck, we close, but not like it is with somebody knew you from when you was born, and you got to manhood at the same time. I would have told Victory how it was. Giston, Stuck, whatever I said to them would be something near, but not the way it really was. I couldn't talk to anybody but Dorcas, and I told her things I hadn't told myself. With her, I was fresh, new again. Before I met her, I'd changed into new 7 times. The first time was when I named my own self, since nobody did it for me, since nobody knew what it could or should have been. I was born and raised in Vesper County, Virginia in 1873, little place called Vienna. Rhoda and Frank Williams took me in right away and raised me along with 6 of their own. Her last child was 3 months old when Mrs. Rhoda took me in, and me and him were closer than many brothers I've seen. Victory was his name, Victory Williams. Mrs. Rhoda named me Joseph after her father, but neither she nor Mr. Frank either thought to give me a last name. She never pretended I was her natural child. When she parceled out chores or favors, she'd say, "You are just like my own." That I guess it was, made me ask her. I don't believe I was 3 yet, where my real parents were. She looked down at me, over her shoulder, and gave me the sweetest smile, but sad some way, and told me, "Oh, honey, they disappeared without a trace." The way I heard it, I understood her to mean the trace they disappeared without was me. The first day I got to school, I had to have 2 names. I told the teacher Joseph Trace. Victory turned his whole self around in the seat. "Why you tell her that?" he asked me. "I don't know," I said. "'Cause Mama be mad. Pappy too." We were outside in the schoolyard. It was nice, packed dirt, but lots of nails and things were in it. Both of us barefoot. I was struggling to pick a bit of glass from the sole of my foot so I didn't have to look up at him. "No, they won't," I said. "Your mama ain't my mama." "If she ain't, who is?" "Another woman. She be back. She coming back for me. My daddy, too." That was the first time I knew I thought that or wished it. Victory said, "They know where they left you. They come back to our place. William's place is where they know you at." He was trying to walk double-jointed like his sister. She was good at it and bragged so much Victory practiced every chance he got. I remembered his shadow darting in the dirt in front of me. "They know you at William's place. Williams is what you ought to call yourself." I said, "They got to pick me out from all of you all. They got to pick me. I'm Trace, what they left without." "Ain't that a bitch?" Victory laughed at me and wrapped his arm around my neck, wrestling me to the ground. I don't know what happened to the speck of glass. I never did get it out, and nobody came looking for me either. I never knew my own daddy. And my mother, well, I heard a woman in the hotel dining room say the confoundest thing. She was talking to two other women while I poured the coffee. "I am bad for my children," she said. "I don't mean to be, but there is something in me that makes it so. I'm a good mother, but they do better away from me. As long as they're by my side, nothing good can come to them. The ones that leave seem to flower. The ones that stay have such a hard time. You can imagine how bad I feel knowing that, can't you?" I had to sneak a look at her. It took strength to say that, admit that. The second change came when I was picked out and trained to be a man, to live independent and feed myself no matter what. I didn't miss having a daddy because first off there was Mr. Frank, steady as a rock and showed no difference among any of us children. But the big thing was I was picked, Victory too, by the best man in Vesper County to go hunting with. Talk about proud making. He was the best in the county and he picked me and Victory to teach and hunt with. He was so good they say he just carried the rifle for the hell of it because he knew way before what the prey would do, how to fool snakes, bend twigs and string to catch rabbits, groundhog, make a sound waterfowl couldn't resist. White folks said he was a witch doctor, but they said that so they wouldn't have to say he was smart. A hunter's hunter, that's what he was, smart as they come. Taught me two lessons I lived by all my life. One was the secret of kindness from white people. They had to pity a thing before they could like it. The other, well, I forgot it. It was because of him, what I learned from him, made me more comfortable in the woods than in a town. I'd get nervous if a fence or a rail was anywhere around. Folks thought I was the one to be counted on, never to be able to stomach a city. Piled up buildings, cement paths, me? Not me. 1893 was the third time I changed. That was when Vienna burned to the ground. Red fire doing fast what white sheets took too long to finish, canceling every deed, vacating each and every field, emptying us out of our places so fast we went running from one part of the county to another, or nowhere. I walked and worked and walked, me and Victory, 15 miles to Palestine. That's where I met Violet. We got married and set up on Harlan Rick's place near Tyrell. He owned the worst land in the county. Violet and me worked his crops for 2 years. When the soil ran out, when rocks was the biggest harvest, we ate what I shot. Then old man Ricks got fed up and sold the place along with our debt to a man named Clayton Beatty. The debt rose from $180 to $800 under him. Interest, he said, and all the fertilizer and stuff we got from the general store. Things he paid for. The prices, he said, went up. Violet had to tend our place and walk the plow on his too, while I went from Bear to Crossland to Goshen working. Slash pine some of the time, sawmill most of it. Took us 5 years, but we did it. Then I got a job laying rail for the Southern Sky. I was 28 years old and used to changing by now. So in 1901, when Booker T had a sandwich in the president's house, I was bold enough to do it again. Decided to buy me a piece of land. Like a fool, I thought they'd let me keep it. They ran us off with 2 slips of paper I never saw nor signed. I changed up again the 4th time in 1906 when I took my wife to Rome, a depot near where she was born, and boarded the southern sky for a northern one. They moved us 5 times in 4 different cars to abide by the Jim Crow law. We lived in a railroad flat in the Tenderloin. Violet went in service, and I worked everything from white folks' shoe leather to cigars in a room where they read to us while we rolled tobacco. I cleaned fish at night and toilets in the day till I got in with the table waiters, and I thought I had settled into my permanent self, the 5th one, when we left the stink of Mulberry Street and Little Africa, then the flesh-eating rats on West 53rd, and moved uptown. By then all the hogs and cows had disappeared, and what used to be little shacky farms, nowhere near the size of the piece I tried to buy, was more and more houses. Used to be a colored man could get shot at just walking around up there. They built row houses and single ones with big yards and vegetable gardens. Then, just before the war, whole blocks was let to colored. Nice, not like downtown. They had 5, 6 rooms. Some had 10, and if you could manage $50, $60 a month, you could have one. When we moved from 140th Street to a bigger place on Lenox, it was the light-skinned renters who tried to keep us out. Me and Violet fought them, just like they was whites. We won. Bad times had hit then, and landlords, white and black, fought over colored people for the high rents that was okay by us, because we got to live in 5 rooms, even if some of us rented out 2. The buildings were like castles in pictures, and we who had cleaned up everybody's mess since the beginning knew better than anybody how to keep them nice. We had birds and plants everywhere, me and Violet. I gathered up the street droppings myself to fertilize them, and I made sure the front was as neat as the inside. I was doing hotel work by then, better than waiting tables in a restaurant, because in a hotel there are more ways to get tips. Pay was light, but the tips dropped in my palm fast as pecans in November. When the rents got raised and raised again, and the stores doubled the price of uptown beef and let the white folks' meat stay the same, I got me a little sideline selling Cleopatra products in the neighborhood. What with Violet cutting out day work and just doing hair, we did fine. Then long come a summer in 1917, and after those white men took that pipe from around my head, I was brand new for sure, because they almost killed me, along with many a more. One of those white men had a heart and kept the others from finishing me right then and there. I don't know exactly what started the riot. Could have been what the papers said, what the waiters I worked with said, or what Giston said. That party, he said, where they sent out invitations to whites to come see a colored man burn alive. Giston said thousands of whites turned up. Giston said it sat on everybody's chest, and if the killing hadn't done it, something else would have. They were bringing in swarms of colored to work during the war. Crackers in the South mad because Negroes were leaving. Crackers in the North mad because they were coming. I have seen some things in my time in Virginia. 2 of my stepbrothers hurt bad, liked to kill Mrs. Rhoda. There was a girl, too, visiting her folks up by Crossland, just a girl. Anyway, up here, if you bust out, 100'll bust right along with you. I saw some little boys running in the street. One fell down and didn't get up right away, so I went over to him. That did it. Riot went on without me while me and Violet nursed my head. I survived it, though, and maybe that's what made me change again for the 7th time, 2 years later in 1919, when I walked all the way, every goddamn step of the way, with the 369. Can't remember no time when I danced in the street, but that one time when everybody did. I thought that change was the last, and it sure was the best, because the war had come and gone, and the colored troops of the 369 that had fought it made me so proud it split my heart in 2. Giston got me a job at another hotel where the tip was folding money more often than coin. I had it made. In 1925, we all had it made. Then Violet started sleeping with a doll in her arms. Too late. I understood in a way. In a way. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't Violet's fault. All of it's mine. All of it. I'll never get over what I did to that girl. Never. I changed once too often. Made myself new one time too many. You could say I've been a new Negro all my life. But all I lived through, all I seen, and not one of those changes prepared me for her. For Dorcas. You would have thought I was 20, back in Palestine, satisfying my appetite for the first time under a walnut tree. Surprised everybody when we left, me and Violet. They said the city makes you lonely, but since I'd been trained by the best woodsman ever, loneliness was a thing couldn't get near me. Shoot. Country boy, country man. How did I know what an 18-year-old girl might instigate in a grown man whose wife is sleeping with a doll? Make me know a loneliness I could never imagine in a forest empty of people for 15 miles, or on a riverbank with nothing but live bait for company. Convince me I never knew the sweet side of anything until I tasted her honey. They say snakes go blind for a while before they shed skin for the last time. She had long hair and bad skin. A quart of water twice a day would have cleared it right up, her skin. But I didn't suggest it because I liked it like that. Little half moons clustered underneath her cheekbones, like faint hoof marks, there and on her forehead. I bought the stuff she told me to, but glad none of it ever worked. Take my little hoof marks away? Leave me with no tracks at all? In this world, the best thing, the only thing, is to find the trail and stick to it. I tracked my mother in Virginia, and it led me right to her. And I tracked Dorcas from borough to borough. I didn't even have to work at it, didn't even have to think. Something else takes over when the track begins to talk to you, give out its signs so strong you hardly have to look. If the track's not talking to you, you might get up out your chair to go buy 2 or 3 cigarettes, have the nickel in your pocket and just start walking, then running, and end up somewhere in Staten Island. For crying out loud, Long Island maybe, staring at goats. But if the trail speaks, no matter what's in the way, you can find yourself in a crowded room aiming a bullet at her heart. Never mind, it's the heart you can't live without. I wanted to stay there, right after the gun went duh, and nobody in there heard it but me. And that is why the crowd didn't scatter like the flock of red wings they looked like, but stayed pressed in, locked together by the steam of their dancing and the music, which would not let them go. I wanted to stay right there, catch her before she fell and hurt herself. I wasn't looking for the trail, it was looking for me, and when it started talking at first, I couldn't hear it. I was rambling, just rambling all through the city. I had the gun, but it was not the gun. It was my hand I wanted to touch you with. 5 days rambling. First high fashion on 131st Street, because I thought you had a hair appointment on Tuesday. First Tuesday of every month it was, but you wasn't there. Some women came in with fish dinners from Salem Baptist, and the blind twins were playing guitar in the shop. And it's just like you said, only one of them's blind. The other one is just going along with the program. Probably not even brothers, let alone twins. Something their mama cooked up for a little extra change. They were playing something sooty, though, not the gospel like they usually do, and the women selling fish dinners frowned and talked about their mother bad, but they never said a word to the twins, and I knew they were having a good time listening, because one of the loudest ones could hardly suck her teeth for patting her foot. They didn't pay me no mind. Took me a while to get them to tell me you wasn't on the book for that day. Minnie said you had a touch-up Saturday and how she didn't approve of touch-ups, not just because they were 50 cents instead of $1.25 for the whole do, but because it hurt the hair. Heat on dirt, she said. hurt the hair worse than anything she knew of, except, of course, no heat at all. What did you have the touch-up for? That's what I first thought about. Last Saturday? You told me you were going with the choir out to Brooklyn to sing at Shiloh, and you had to leave at 9 in the morning and wouldn't be back till night, and that's why. And that you'd missed the last trip, and your aunt found out about it, so you had to go on this one, and that's why. So I didn't wait for Violet to leave and unlock Malvaughn's apartment. No need. But how could you have a touch-up the Saturday before and still make it to the station by 9 o'clock in the morning when Minnie never opens up before noon on Saturday because she's open till midnight getting everybody readied up for Sunday? And you didn't need to keep the Tuesday regular appointment, did you? I dismissed the evil in my thoughts because I wasn't sure that the sooty music the Blind Twins were playing wasn't the cause. It can do that to you. A certain kind of guitar playing. Not like the clarinets, but close. If that song had been coming through a clarinet, I'd have known right away. But the guitars, they confused me, made me doubt myself, and I lost the trail. Went home and didn't pick it up again until the next day when Malvaughn looked at me and covered her mouth with her hand. Couldn't cover her eyes, though. The laugh came flying out of there. I know you didn't mean those things you said to me after I found you and got you to come back to our room one more time. What you said, I know you didn't mean. It hurt, though, and the next day I stood freezing on the stoop, worrying myself sick about it. Nobody there but Malvaughn sprinkling ashes on patches of ice. Across the street, leaning up against the iron railing, I saw 3 sweetbacks, 30 degrees, not even 10 in the morning, and they shone like patent leather. Smooth. Couldn't be more than 20, 22. Young. That's the city for you. One wore spats, and one had a handkerchief in his pocket same color as his tie. Had his coat draped across his shoulders. They were just leaning there, laughing and so on. And then they started crooning. Leaning in, heads together, snapping fingers. City men, you know what I mean. Closed off to themselves, wise young roosters. Didn't have to do a thing, just wait for the chicks to pass by and find them. Belted jackets and handkerchiefs the color of their ties. You think Malvaughn would have covered her mouth in front of them? Or made roosters pay her in advance for the use of her place of a Thursday? Never would have happened because roosters don't need Malvaughn. Chickens find the roosters and find the place too. And if there is tracking to be done, they do it. They look. They figure. Roosters wait because they are the ones waited for. They don't have to trail anybody. Look ignorant in a beauty parlor asking for a girl in front of women who couldn't wait for me to leave so that they could pack to the sooty music and talk about what the hell did I want to know about a girl not out of high school yet. And wasn't I married to old crazy Violet? Only old cocks like me have to get up from the stoop, cut Malvaughn off in the middle of a sentence and try to walk, not run all the way to Inwood, where we sat the first time and you crossed your legs at the knees so I could see the green shoes you carried out of the house in a paper sack, so your aunt wouldn't know you tapped down Lenox and up 8th in them instead of the Oxfords you left the house in. While you flicked your foot, turned your ankles for the admiration of the heels, I looked at your knees but didn't touch. I told you again that you were the reason Adam ate the apple and its core. That when he left Eden, he left a rich man. Not only did he have Eve, but he had the taste of the first apple in the world in his mouth for the rest of his life. The very first to know what it was like, to bite it down, hear the crunch and let the red peeling break his heart. You looked at me then like you knew me, and I thought it was really Eden, and I couldn't take your eyes in because I was loving the hoof marks on your cheeks. I went back up there to the very spot. Old snow made the sky soft and black in tree bark. Dog tracks and rabbit, too, neat as the pattern on a Sunday tie scattered over the snow. One of those dogs must have weighed 80 pounds. The rest were small size. One limped. My footprints messed everything up, and when I looked back at where I'd walked, Saw myself standing there in street shoes, no galoshes, wet to the ankles. I knew. I didn't feel the cold, though, because I was remembering it the way it was in our time. That warm October, remember? The rose of Sharon was still heavy with flowers, lilac trees, pines. That tulip tree where Indians gathered looked like a king. The first time we met there, I got there before you. 2 white men were sitting on a rock. I sat on the ground right next to them until they got disgusted and moved off. You had to be working or look like you was to be anywhere near there. That's why I brought my sample case along, to look like I was delivering something important. Yeah, it was forbidden, all right, but nobody loud talked us that time, and it gave the thing an edge, being there, a danger that was more than me and you being together. I scratched our initials in the rock those men moved away from, D and J. Later on, after we had a place and a routine, I brought you treats, worrying each time what to bring that would make you smile and come again the next time. How many phonograph records, how many silk stockings, the little kit to mend the runs, remember? The purple metal box with flowers on top, full of Schraff's chocolates. Cologne in a blue bottle that smelt like a whore. Flowers once, but you were disappointed with that treat, so I gave you $1 to buy whatever you wanted with it. A whole day's pay back home when I was young, just for you. Anything just for you. To bite down hard, chew up the core and have the taste of red apple skin to carry around for the rest of my life. In Malvaughn's nephew's room, with the Iceman sign in the window, your first time, and mine in a manner of speaking, for which, and I will say it again, I would strut out the garden, strut, as long as you held on to my hand, girl. Dorcas, girl, your first time and mine. I chose you. Nobody gave you to me. Nobody said that's the one for you. I picked you out. Wrong time, yep, and doing wrong by my wife. But the picking out, the choosing. Don't ever think I fell for you or fell over you. I didn't fall in love. I rose in it. I saw you and made up my mind. My mind. And I made up my mind to follow you too. That's something I know how to do from way back. Maybe I didn't tell you that part about me. My gift in the woods that even he looked up to, and he was the best there ever was. Ever. Those old people, they knew it all. I talk about being new 7 times before I met you. But back then, back there, if you was or claimed to be colored, you had to be new and stay the same every day the sun rose and every night it dropped. And let me tell you, baby, in those days, it was more than a state of mind.